Hey Trek Gang, what's going on in this week's episode of the Boeville in Newtown? Well, it's right over here. Stand by and we'll get into what's happening this week. Okay, Trek Gang, welcome to episode 22. It happens to be June 17th, 2022. I'm sorry, 23, not 22, 23. I'm trying to go back a year. I don't know why. Anyway, it's 23, not 22. It's episode 22 for 23. Oh my goodness. Anyway, as you can see, the bridge scene is, or the dam scene, bridge scene is pretty much together now. I have some modifications that I'm going to make. Nothing up here is actually set in place yet. It's just kind of sitting there. First thing is I noticed when I put the new retaining walls in that the old girder bridge that was up there was actually too short. The only way that I could have fixed that would be to extend the bridge abutments in, which would have messed up the other detail that I had put on the top here. So instead of modifying the bridge abutments, I decided I was going to extend the bridge. This here goes back to a mail call that I had last year from Santa Fe Bob. So hey, we're extending the bridge. It's not going to be this long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably cut the end of this off on both sides. So these last three panels are going to get cut off on both sides. So that way it'll end up being right on top of the stonework that's there. So that will be pretty much the bridge abutment. Now, it's a lot wider than it probably needs to be. I get it. I could probably go ahead and maybe make it to where it's only one panel wide. That would probably look a little bit better. I'm still messing with that. I wanted to see what it looked like. Number one. Number two, I'm kind of itching to run a train across this new area now to see if I've got any issues, to see if I've screwed anything up. So that's kind of what my plan is for the rest of the afternoon. Is I'm gonna run a few trains across this thing and see what we've got. So that's it for right now. All right, Trek Gang. I'm going to call it here. Not much of an update. Sorry. With it being a holiday, or with there being a holiday on Monday, and of course Father's Day was Sunday. I didn't get as much done down here as I would have liked, I guess. I did get through better part of the operating session. I'm sorry, I wasn't watching the camera. I was looking at something. Anyway, I can tell you that thus far, the dam scene, that area, the relaying, the track, the whole 9 yards seems to have worked rather well. I don't see any issues with it. At least on the main level. Like I said, I do have an issue up top with the interurban line, which is not operational right now anyway. That I'm going to have to go back and fix. It's not a huge deal, but it's something I'm going to have to look into. Beyond that, I actually did run into something else. And it's not a bad problem to have. It's actually a good one. But I've got two things. First off, and I know that from watching Jason the Train Freak, that he's thinking about going away from doing the waybills. Okay. And just going over to doing switch lists. Well, the funny thing of it is I actually went back through and I found these And of course, it's not even going to. There we go. This was a switch list from the old 11-foot by 13-foot layout, when you didn't have but, no more than 10 cars on a train. In theory, I could still use these. The problem that I had is a couple of them I tried putting, and I don't know if that's gonna, you see how that one's shiny? I tried to make it to where I could reuse them. In other words, using an erasable marker. Which unfortunately, because some of these sat around for a while, the ink became a little bit more permanent than it did become erasable. Again, not an issue. I don't know what I ever did with the actual template for these. I can't seem to find it. I get a feeling it was probably on the Windows 98 or the Windows ME, the Windows XP machine. I'll get it right eventually. My old nightlight, as he so nicely called it. I do have that hard drive. I just haven't had a chance to look it over to see if that stuff is still there. Or to see if it's on my Windows 7 machine that's still sitting over here that I originally had over at the dispatcher's station. It's quite possible that these are on there, and I just haven't looked for them yet. Which brings me, well, actually, let's finish up with this first. So I have the switch list. That was one thing. The other thing that I came across, and this is something we're going to talk about this week, on Sidetrack Sunday, because I've got Sidetrack Sunday this week. As you all know, I did things a little bit more, I do things inexpensively all the way around. So I went and made, oh my gosh, the lighting on this thing. I went and made my own car card for our waybill holders. One of the things I found, though, was the fact that, believe it or not, one thing that's not on here is a description. And it's one of the things that, what's its name? Micromark. They actually have on theirs. And believe it or not, but in my going through stuff, I actually found that I had the template for these instead of doing my own. So I am now thinking I may go back and redo all of my car cards. That's a major undertaking when you're talking about 300 pieces of rolling stock, I think it is now. Like I said, it's something I may end up doing down the road. They're a little bit taller. They do have that description line, which will help, especially when I have operators over here that aren't me that need to find a particular piece of rolling stock. Now, let me get into two more things here, and then I'll talk about one other little thing, since we're still talking about the railroad. One of the other things was I realized that I just picked up another passenger train. And, or not picked up another passenger train. I actually did, but I switched it out for the GG1, which was 4835 or something like that. Or 4828, not 4935. 4828. That was the original 4M locomotive. That one there hadn't been running right. It's running better now. But I switched it out for the Lynn McCurdy Express, which is the New Haven one, because I got those New Haven cars from Mr. McCurdy. So anyway, the more I was thinking about this the other day, I've actually got 14 possible passenger trains. And what I'm thinking about doing is making a change to the railroad. Not to mention the fact that Dave over at DB Tech just sent me that wonderful ABA set, to which I still have to go through and see if I can get the the A unit straightened out. But regardless, the C liner's working great, Dave. By the way, I got that one there. That one there is going to be pulling a train eventually. But what I've got is I've got five trains or five passenger trains that have 3 cars or less. 3 passenger cars or less. The one that's got less than 3 is the RDC pair. So what I'm thinking about doing is doing a local run and also doing a through run. What does that mean? Or what do you mean by doing a through run? Well, I'm thinking about dropping two freight trains, through freights, in favor of running 2 extra passenger trains. And I'm going to switch things around. Anything that's got 4 cars and more, with the exception of 1 4-car, and I've got it written down that I'm going to use the Wabash, but that may change. I may end up using one of the B&Os, or I may end up, well, no, that's right, that's already over there. I may end up using one of the 4 B&Os to go ahead and move over one of those 4-car ones and to be the 6th local. Now, what does that mean? That means when I redo the schedule, I'll have a north and a south local. In actuality, I was just looking at this, I'm going to need 2. So I'm going to probably need to move 3 trains over. Well, because 6 isn't going to work. I may have to think about this a little bit more. Actually, no. I'm sorry. That would still, it would just, yeah. Things are going to get a little squirrely, I guess. But I can work with that. I'll figure this out. But anyway, what I'm thinking about doing is that any of them that have 4 or more cars would be a through passenger. So they would go from Richmond through Boeville and straight to Harrisburg and vice versa. So they would be on the main lines. If you remember correctly, at one point in time, I said that the passenger trains always went into the passenger terminal, which is the way it's been working on the schedule as it sits. And the freight trains obviously run the outer mains. And of course, that's not really prototypical to do something like that. Obviously, freight trains don't run through a passenger terminal, but passenger trains do run on freight line. And for the visible portion of the layout, that is extremely true. There is a mix of passenger and freight. And, it is what it is. But like I said, because of the fact that I now have 14 passenger trains, or possible passenger trains, in reality it would be nice if I picked up 2 more. And I think I've actually got the cars that I could probably pull that off too. But I could go ahead and do a mix of both through passenger and local passenger, along with my through freights and my local freights. And since I'm on this whole thing with the car cards and waybills and things of that nature, I think what I'm going to end up doing is the only trains that will be waybilled would be the locals. I think going through what I was looking at before, it's just too much of a pain in the rear end to try and waybill the through freights, which just go from yard to yard anyway. But what's going to happen with the locals is once they finish their 4th cycle, then they're going to go ahead and move over to what I'm going to end up calling the through freight pocket. So when I'm going to go back into the hidden yards, and I'm actually going to take 2 of the slots, and I'm going to take them from being, the way that they're all laid out now, boxcar, gondola car, refrigerator car, so on and so forth. 2 of those slots will now be the locals, and then the rest of it will be all the through freights, and one of the other pockets will be for the unit trains, which it is now. Goofy dog. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm going to stop babbling. Just don't forget that this Sunday is Sidetrack Sunday on my channel, 8 p.m. Eastern. I know I haven't been calling it out. I'm sorry, the rest of the Sidetrack Sunday gang. I have been way out of it. Well, not to mention the fact that I completely forgot that I missed the whole month of May because, well, I didn't do a live stream in May. So, anywho, you all know the deal. Wait for the highball. Green tracks ahead. We'll catch you all next time. Be safe. God bless. We will see ya.